Go Knights go! 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 Hello, Knight fans and hockey fans out there. Welcome to Knights This Week. And I apologize. This is Knights This Week about 2 to 3 weeks. Yes, for anybody who's been looking for my weekly video cast, I truly apologize. I have had a lot going on lately right now. There's a lot that I'm juggling in my life right now. The home front is a little bit not the best. And so I haven't really had much time to do anything. But I'm going to get you caught up on where the Knights are. And you may be surprised. Because I don't think it's going to take as long as you may think to find out where our London Knights are sitting right now in junior hockey. It's going to be a little bit different right now to see what they're doing. Okay, so welcome to Knights This Week. I am your host and super fan, Jason Banks, coming at you. And how are you doing out there? Welcome to Knights This Week. So, what I'm going to do quickly is I'm going to quickly give you a brief synopsis of where we are in the Knights season. I'm not used to doing this. I'm not used to doing 8 games all at once, but that is what I'm going to do. 8 games all at once, people, about the London Knights this year. As we go into this weekend, the Knights will have 2 games this weekend, both at home. And I do believe there's tickets left for Sunday's game. I last heard, so any fans out there that may want to go out and check out the Knights, there are tickets available still, I believe, on the Sunday game. All right, let's get to this, shall we? The Knights opened their season, 3 weeks ago, I think? So they opened their season 3 weeks ago, and it always seems ironic that the opening game is always a very curious opponent. I don't know if the schedule makers plan that or what they do, but it always seems to be that way. A year ago, they opened their home schedule against the Erie Otters. And ironically enough, it was the Erie Otters who the London Knights beat out in the playoffs a year before on their way to their very historic Memorial Cup championship. That same night, they raised the Memorial Cup banners to the rafters. So this year, they opened their season at home against who? Against who? Against the Windsor Spitfires, last year's Memorial Cup champions, as they were hosting it. And they won it through the back door. I have a lot of squabbles about the Memorial Cup format. I don't think they earned their Memorial Cup. They got it only because they were hosting, because our London Knights beat the Windsor Spitfires out in the first round last year, as you may recall. So the Knights open their year at home against Windsor. Okay? And the London Knights and Windsor played a pretty good game, actually, for 2 periods. It was a pretty close game for 2 periods. Windsor did have the slight 3-2 lead going into the 3rd period. But then Windsor got 2 goals in the 3rd period, and Windsor would end up winning the London Knights home opener, spoiling the London Knights home opener by a score of 5-2. So that is how the season started about 3 weeks ago. 5-2 Windsor over your London Knights. So, not a very good start for the Knights. But hey, one game 1 game. And last year, actually, they started the season on the road in Sarnia and didn't have a very good game. And then the London Knights were fine. So no need to worry about 1 game, right? Right? I wouldn't think so. Okay, so the next day, the London Knights opened with 3 games in 3 days, right off the hip hop. That's a pretty tough opening weekend. And London Knights, I think on the first weekend, had a lot of guys still away at camps. I believe they got Cliff Poo back for the 3rd game, but outside of that, they had no Max Jones, they had no Sam Miletich, they had no Yoli Jalevi, no Brandon Crawley, no Victor Mete, no Alex Formitton. I don't think Robert Thomas was back yet. A lot of cogs out of the lineup. So London Knights going to Saginaw on the Saturday, and the London Knights would actually go into Saginaw, and Jordan Coy got his first start in net for the Saginaw Spirit, and Jordan Coy stood on his head because the London Knights were outshot in this game, the second game, 41-27 by quite a ratio. But Jordan Coy stood on his head very much like he did a lot last year when he got limited playing time. And it went to overtime. And in overtime, Evan Bouchard got the game-winning goal in overtime. So the London Knights would actually get a win in their second game of the season. They would defeat the Saginaw Spirit in overtime 3-2. Jordan Coy got the first star of the game in that one. And for that, I'm going to do a clapping here, okay? Woo! 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 Hip hop hooray! Hip hop hooray! Woo! Yeah, hip hop hooray to Jordan Coy. He backstops the Knights to a win. Second game of the season. Evens their record at 1-1. Not bad. Not bad. You know, for 2 games in, 1-1. Sunday comes along that weekend, and they're in Sault Ste. Marie after going to Saginaw. And the London Knights did not win 1 single game in Sault Ste. Marie last year, and that trend continues this year as London gets beat handily by Sault Ste. Marie, 5-1. Sault Ste. Marie was out to a 4-0 lead before he even blinked. I think they were up 4-0 very early in the second. So, the London Knights did not get a good game that game. Lost 5-1 to Sault Ste. Marie. So, for opening weekend, they go 1-2 in 3 games in 3 days. But it's opening weekend, right? No need to panic. No need to panic. All right, let's continue through the games here. And I'm just going to tell you that from here on end, the games that are all coming to you are all losses. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. So, they had a game here at home against Kingston. Got their pants blown off. 5-0 by Kingston Frontenacs. Not even close. Outshot. And actually, in every game this year, the Knights have been outshot, with the exception of a couple. Opening night, the shots were even. Got outshot in Saginaw. Got outshot in Sault Ste. Marie. Kingston comes into town. 5-0 win. Kingston outshot them pretty bad that game too. So let's continue on. And they have a game in Oshawa. Next after the Kingston game. At least this one is a close game. This one is very close, but still a L. Boo! Boo! L. Loss. Yes, they lost 5-4 in Oshawa. Now, they got outshot again pretty badly in that game, which has been the trend for most games this season. Jordan Coy was in net, And Jordan Coy was one reason why this game was pretty close. He kept them in that game in Oshawa. But nevertheless, another loss. So, the Knights, are you counting now, folks? Have you added this up? The Knights are 1-4. 1-4 to start the season. Hey, still, though, young in the season, right? Okay, so Sault Ste. Marie comes into town on a Friday night into Budweiser Gardens, and just like the week before with Kingston, London Knights are beaten by Sault 4-1. However, the silver lining in this one is it was 0-0 after 2. They had a tough third period, the Knights, and that's where they got into trouble, got into penalty trouble, and they lost 4-1. So, now let's get you caught up with the latest now. Last 2 games they played last night, but they played, I think, last Saturday as well. Had a game in Erie. And of course, going back to Erie, right? After that historic Game 7 in the second round last year against Erie, the one that went overtime, the one the London Knights almost won. Almost. And, who knows what would have happened last year if the Knights had beaten Erie. They might have won the OHL again, but hard to speculate. But they lost. They go into Erie. Erie has lost a lot of key players off their team. They're not expected to be high in the standings this year, Erie. And nevertheless, even with Erie having all their stars out of the lineup, Erie hands London a 5-2 loss. 5-2 for the Erie Otters. Don't! Uh-oh! Panic time! Panic time! Push the panic button. Is it time to panic? Okay. Now, let's get you caught up with the last game. Last night in Windsor, where Windsor, ironically enough, waits to this home game to raise their Memorial Cup banners to the rafters. Huh. Knights in town, raise the banner. Was that planned? Was that really planned? Really? But anyway, that's what they did. And the London Knights played a great game last night. A great game. They probably showed a lot more. They probably played one of their better games of the year, if not their best. They played pretty tough against Sault Ste. Marie with that 0-0 tie going to the third, and the game in Oshawa was close too. But outside of those games, hasn't really been much to write about. But last night, the London Knights grabbed the lead in Windsor, 1-0 in the first period. And then Windsor tied it up, and late in the third period, it was tied at 1. So London playing very well last night, hanging around. But with 5 minutes left in the third period, Windsor would get a goal. Tyler Johnson lets in a pretty weak goal between his legs. And then they added an empty netter. Final last night in Windsor, 3-1 for the Spitfires. So, shots 33-29 for Windsor. So, pretty close. Was a pretty close game, but still another loss. Oh, my poor heart. Is this really happening? The London Knights, now after 8 games, are 1-1, folks. 1 win and 5 plus 2, 7 losses. 1-7. Wow. And ironically enough, as you probably wouldn't be surprised after hearing that record, that puts them dead last in the OHL right now. They are dead last below everybody. They have scored the least goals of any team in the OHL. Well, that's not the truth. They're tied for scoring the least goals with the Mississauga Steelheads, who had a very good season last year too, but a really slow start as well. So the London Knights are 1-7 going into play this weekend, and who do they got? Who do they got on the schedule? They got Windsor tonight again, and Windsor's 5-2. They're doing pretty good, and then they got Owen Sound, the team that is pegged to be the team to beat this year. So just saying, just putting it out there, folks, it could even get worse. They could be 1-9 after the next 2 games. So what is going on in Knightsland, folks? Why is this happening? Don't! Oh no! Oh no! What is happening? Well, give you a few reasons why this is happening. Number one, you look at the team they had last year, and there are surprises this year. Those surprises being Victor Mete is playing with the Montreal Canadiens right now. He wasn't expected to do that. He wasn't expected to start the regular season in Montreal, and he's playing well. Good chance he's not back. Obviously, you get the 9-game look, but if he continues to play this well, he's probably not going to be back. So Victor Mete, a surprise, gone. And then you look at Olli Juolevi. Olli Juolevi was a question mark about returning this year, but Olli Juolevi has gone to Finland to play this year. So that is what Vancouver deemed best for his development. So no Olli Juolevi. Brandon Crawley got drafted by the New York Rangers this year. Brandon Crawley is playing in the AHL right now. No Brandon Crawley. So Mete, Crawley, Juolevi, arguably 3 of your best defensemen, not here. Tyler Parsons obviously is not here as well. A sensational goaltender, so you got that huge hole. And Tyler Johnson and Jordan Coy are trying to fill that hole. Tyler Johnson just doesn't seem to have that caliber. And Jordan Coy is a young goalie who is going to continue to learn, but he's young. And then up front, Alex Formenton is with Ottawa? Really? He was a very late pick last year, and he is sticking with Ottawa right now up in the big leagues. Will he stay there? Maybe not, but a surprise nevertheless that he's sticking. He made the club to start the regular season. Yanni Kalkinen is gone, and let's not forget what he did in the playoffs last year. He came up with some rather huge goals for the Knights in the playoffs. Another surprise, they got this guy as an import pick this year, Jesper Bratt. Again, a very late NHL pick. And where is he? He's in the NHL. He's playing great with the New Jersey Devils. He's got, I think, 6 points in 4 games or something. Bratt might have only played 1 exhibition game as a London Knight. So, you take into account all these missing players, not to mention J.J. Pickenidge, who is an overager, who was a great player for the Knights. Owen McDonald, an overager too, who had a lot of heart and soul. Mitchell Stevens, who they picked up last year, who was absolutely clutch in the playoffs. Mitchell Vandersoppel, who they picked up as well. The London Knights have got a lot of players not in their lineup. That is factor number 1. Factor number 2, Max Jones was sent back to the Knights. Max Jones seems like he still hasn't learned anything, and that's why he was sent back, because he continues to be undisciplined. He continues to take stupid penalties when the Knights cannot afford to take them, and he's being he continues. He was benched the couple games ago because of that. So that's an issue. So the London Knights are encountering this right now. Now, this is very, very strange for fans and followers of the London Knights, because we see a good team year in, year out, right? Their worst showing in the last, 12 years, I think, was 8th place. They still were 5 games above 500, and they made the playoffs and gave the Owen Sound attack a run for their money that year. We haven't seen this for a very long time in London. Can they turn it around? They might. But right now they're 1-7, dead last in the OHL. So we're gonna see what happens this season. Now the last time they had a really slow start, they were 0-6 to start the 2007-2008 season. They managed to turn that around and managed to finish 4th in the conference, only to be beaten out by Drew Doughty and the Guelph Storm in the first round. But right now the London Knights are 1-7. Would they be in the CHL rankings right now? No, not even close. Let's take a look at just where things are in the standings, and this I'll give you another reason why the London Knights are where they are. They've scored 14 goals so far in 8 games. Do the math, folks. That's not even 2 goals a game. So you're not going to get many wins by scoring less than 2 goals a game. They've given up 34 goals, which is rather high too. It's one of the highest goals against that team's given up this year too. So they're, do the math, that's minus 20. A minus 20 goal differential for the London Knights. They are 1-7. 2 points. Last place overall right now. Let's take a look at where other teams are. And there are 2 teams that are tied for first overall in the standings right now. That being the Barrie Colts. In the East, they got 13 points. And out in the Western Conference, the Sioux Greyhounds have 13 points. They're doing very well again this year, the Sioux Greyhounds. Sarnia is right behind the Sioux Greyhounds with 12 points, so they're doing very good as well. In terms of the Knights division, Kitchener is leading with 11 points, Owen Sound with 10, Guelph with 7, Erie with 5, London with your big, huge 2 points. So that's where we are right now in the OHL. So I'm glad I could get you caught up with all that in about a half hour. So the London Knights have not won a game at Budweiser Gardens this year as well. That is very, very abnormal. So the Knights 1-7. Now, I think this is what the Knights need to do. If they continue to be this bad, continue to struggle this bad this season, I think you sell. Just get rid of everybody. Well, not everybody, but find a new home for Max Jones. Find a new home for Cliff Pooh. The guys that are experienced, anyway, get them traded. And then, if you're really bad, you're finished last overall, and you may, and that gives you the first opportunity to get the first overall pick, right? So that's a way of looking at it, I think, if it continues to be this way, and you get the first overall pick, you should have a pretty good young player to build your team around. But the Knights have been rather unfortunate this year with the things that have happened. Victor Mete has played very well for Montreal, and he continues to stick up with Montreal. Then you got Alex Vermitten up with Ottawa still. Jesper Bratt, who's a very good player, thought he would light it up here with London. He right now looks too good for the OHL. So the these are things that have been rather unfortunate for the Knights this year. But the Knights are 1-7, and that's where we are on Knights this week. So Windsor tonight, and then Owen Sound on Sunday. Now I'm going to try to come back to you next week. I'm not promising. Things are rather challenging right now in my life, but I want to bring you Knights this week. So, like I did last year, what I want to do at the end of the show here is I'm going to do the Knights dance for you. We haven't done the Knights dance much this year. There hasn't been much to dance about. And you score 14 goals, that's not a lot of times to do the Knights dance. But we're going to do it here for you to end the show, okay? But just give me a second. I got to get it queued up. I'll be right back. Here we go, folks. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Knights this week. I've tried to get you caught up on what's going on in Knights land. Not much to tell you because it's been a pretty bad season so far. But hey, support the team in good and bad, and we'll see if the Knights can start getting a few wins. Until next time, this is your fan and super host, or host and super fan, Jason Banks. And take care until next time. Go Knights, go!